Hello everyone and welcome to day 3 of Vlogmas 2021. Today we're going to be doing our annual book wrap-up. So let's go ahead and get started with the questions. Our first question is, did you meet your goals that you made from the last video? So my goals, as far as I remember from the last video, was to read 50 books this year. And so far I've read like 28, kind of 29. I set out to read 35 books this year. Currently I'm at 19, which is not a bad number, but I'm still kind of far off. But it's okay. As Kayla said in the last video, quality over quantity. I'm trying to remember that. Yeah. Which is one of my goals for 2022, is if a book is not working for me, throw it out. If it doesn't work, don't keep reading it. Don't force it. Which I think is a lesson I could do to learn.
There's a fly. I know.
Also for 2022, as far as numeric goals go, I'm gonna aim for 30 and hopefully I'll get it because I think last year I read over 30 books. Yeah, this year I'm almost 30, so finding an equilibrium. And then if you set your expectations low and you surpass it, makes you feel good about yourself. Yeah, you feel really good. Okay, so for me, numerically, it's not looking too good, but this 2021, I did meet my other goal, which was reading more genres other than just dystopian. I started reading mainly like LGBTQ plus books. I started reading more fantasy and mystery, maybe. Did I read Well, what's a mystery book that you read? I mean, The Raven Boys is kind of mystery. It's like mythical magic mystery, kind of, right? Yeah, so I still kind of stayed in that fantasy range, but it was more than just the dystopian books. As for 2022, I think I'm gonna aim for 24 books since I average like 2 to 3 books a month. So I think I can do that. I just want to meet one goal. Okay? I know, I just want to finish one challenge, and then I'll be set. I also want to work on expanding my genres. I have a couple like murder mystery books lined up that I'm excited to read, and more like love stories, I guess. Romance, yes, that's the word. So I'm excited to continue expanding. I also want to read more historical fiction. I know I said that in the last video, and I just didn't. So hopefully I can do that this year. Next, we're going to talk about what we are currently reading. I'm currently reading Scarlet by Marissa Meyer on audiobook. I don't really know if I'm going to finish it. Why does that look like the Will Smith meme? It's like... I don't know if I'm going to finish it. I just needed an audiobook and that was what was available. But it's not bad so far. I'm just not super interested in it. And then I'm about to start The Raven King, which is the 4th book in the Raven cycle, the last one. I'm so excited. But I'm also kind of nervous because I loved the first book, and then the second and the third I just kind of liked. Yeah. So I'm worried about the ending. It's going down. Well, I wouldn't say it's going down. It was just kind of like great and just kind of plateaued, and I'm hopeful, but also very worried. Currently, I am reading The Library of the Unwritten by A.J. Hackwith, which I'm only a couple pages into it. This is overdue, and I'm scared the library's gonna make me pay for it, so I gotta finish it. But it's fear that's motivating you at this point. Technically, I'm reading the audiobook of Chain of Gold, which is a Cassandra Clare book, and that also expires today, so I gotta go, gotta get the job done, gotta start a new nation, gotta meet my son. It's about drive, it's about hours. Put in the hours. What are you gonna read next, as of right now? I wanna say, as book people, you could be like, oh, I'm gonna read this, this, and this, and then completely throw that out the window the second you finish the book you just read, which is totally okay. I have mentioned this before. I call myself a mood reader for that very reason. It's like whatever I feel like reading, I just pick one up, and sometimes I just don't read at all. But I am pretty certain that I'm going to be reading this book next, especially since it's our next book club book. All These Bodies. What does the sticker say? Signed 1st edition. I got this book in... Ooh! I got this book in Leavenworth, so it has a really nice memory with it. This is a murder mystery I don't know too much about it other than had something to do with bodies being found with absolutely no blood in them, and then there was a teenage girl found with a whole bunch of blood on top of her, and a lot of people think that she was the person who committed all these crimes. I think it's set in the 60s or the 50s. I'm excited to read it. It was also the first murder mystery book that I bought. Starting a long collection, hopefully. As for me, I will either be reading that book next or this one, which is The Loop. Again, I don't know that much about this book other than I think there's a disease. And it was published, I think it's published in 2020, which is terrible. But also, I think it's set in the Pacific Northwest, and so it's like, I want to read it because we need to read books set in the Pacific Northwest. And
Not just Twilight.
right, and not just Twilight. And this book also mentions Seattle.
Ah, the Americans.
It's always the Americans. It says Stranger Things meets World War Z. I don't know what World War Z is, but I like Stranger Things.
Sounds promising.
All right, next question. What were your top 3 favorite books of 2021? Of course, if you had to pick. This one was difficult for Kayla. We all know that. I expanded my genre this year to include like murder, mystery, crime books, which I think all of them are either fictional entirely or like based upon true things. So one that I really, really liked is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I have this book, but it's upstairs and I don't want to go get it. I did really like this book. I think it was the first murder mystery book I read. I don't know. But I remember...
I thought it was Stalking Jack the Ripper.
Oh no, that's right. That one is. It's about this girl who's a senior in high school, and for her, like, I think it's called a capstone project. She decides to try to investigate a cold case in her town. Second book that we both put on our list is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This book was really good. It's like, it's so typical.
It's an overdone concept, but it's original.
It's done well.
It was, for me, it was like, I've read lots of fantasy dystopian books before, but this one was unlike anything I've ever read. It was so original and so well done that I swear I couldn't put it down. Like, I was reading it on my lunch break. I was reading it after school. I stayed up till like 1 a.m. one night reading it.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a school night. Don't tell my mom.
There were times that I would be sitting with family and be like, can I go read? And Mom's like, no.
Yeah.
Be with us.
Family books.
Family books. Yeah, it basically takes the tale of Arthur and his round table of knights and tells the story of their descendants and their magic and their wars and everything like that. And it centers around this girl named Bree. I will say some of the, like, the lore, like the names of people and everything, like their status, how everything worked, was confusing. Like, you open it and there's all these words that sound the same, and then there's Welsh, and I'm like, I don't know how to speak Welsh, so it's kind of confusing, but it's still likable, and you kind of get it after a while, but it's not one of those books where it's easy to understand. You gotta do some work. Even though they explain it, it's like,
it takes a little bit of brain power.
And then the last book I picked was One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus,
Which was mentioned in our last video.
Right. I really like this book. Again, it is another murder mystery, but it's a fresh murder mystery. It's not what you think. I mean, I did figure out the ending, but it's not what you initially imagine. I liked how she released information in the book.
It was well paced.
Right, it was well paced, except for the ending I thought kind of came too fast, but that's okay.
It to be over.
It was kind of like the whole book was well paced, and then it just ended, and you were like, why did we jump to the climax so fast? Like, I thought we were just getting started.
So the 3 that I picked were An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This was a book that I kind of just picked up because Hank Green wrote it, and I'm a really big fan of his.
Hank Green.
Yeah, that's why. And I really, really loved this book, especially because I read it on audiobook, and the narrator was just perfect for the character. It's basically about this girl, April May. It took me half the book to get her name. And she encounters what the world thinks are aliens, and she was the first person to interact with them. So basically, she blows up. Every news source, every media source is on her about these aliens and her experience, and what does she have to say about it. it chronicles her coping isn't the right word, but
How she deals with it.
yes, how she deals with all of the attention and the fame coming from, I think she's in her early 20s. She's like an artist, some sort of artist and designer. I can't remember exactly what her profession was. Nobody knew her except her couple of friends, and then now everyone knows her name and she's way out of her league and she's trying to navigate it. The ending sucked. It was like, I read it and I was like, no, that's not how these books are supposed to end. They're they're supposed to end positively. And then after letting it sit for a while, I mean, it made sense. But you have to read it.
That doesn't mean you have to like it.
Yeah, it made sense, but I didn't like it. I would recommend it to anyone. It was a fast read, but it also made you think about social media and its effects on people, just everyday people. Also, the characters were just awesome. The next one that I picked was Legendborn. We already talked about that one. And I Wish You All the Best. This was a book that I picked up purely because it was the book club book, and I was like, all right, looks interesting. It's been on my to-read list for a while. I'm just going to give it a shot. And then I read it in like a week. It was so good. And I also loved it because it was an interesting story, but I didn't really have to think about it when I was reading it. It was like a movie playing in my head. I kind of equated it to like, you know, you're scrolling on Netflix and then you just pick something. And you're like, wow, that was really good. I gave it 5 stars, which I didn't expect, but I would recommend it. It was really good.
Next question is, what is a book you didn't think you'd like, but you did? It surprised you in a good way.
I chose Grave Mercy. I read this a couple, like in the March-ish, so I don't remember details, but I just remember being like, it's another book club book. I'm just gonna read it because I want to go to the meeting. I didn't like it at first, and then I like sped read the whole thing. What I remember is it's about like
Female assassins
set in like the 16th or 17th century or something like that. I did really enjoy that book, and I didn't think I would because of the period it was set in.
The one I picked was I Wish You All the Best. Same thing that she said. I gave it a chance, and I really, really liked it. It follows a non-binary teen named Ben, and basically what happens is Ben comes out to their parents as non-binary, and their parents kick them out. And so it kind of follows what happens to them in their journey, and it's a really good book, so I recommend it.
It's odd because it's just about their life, and you're like, why would I just want to read about someone's life? But it's actually really interesting.
Yeah. Next question. A book you thought you'd like, but you didn't, so the opposite. It surprised you in a negative way.
I actually put 2 books for this question. Burn It All Down and Everything Everything. Burn It All Down, I was so excited to read that book. 2, a mother-son duo running from the police because they committed arson accidentally. Great, sounds so much fun.
Sounds like my life.
I read it and it was basically just them at a lake house. I didn't enjoy it. It was chaotic and stressful because they were constantly like hyping themselves up, and it just wasn't enjoyable. I just didn't enjoy it, but I finished it. Everything, again, I read the description and I was excited to read it because it kind of sounded like The Fault in Our Stars, but different. And then it just kind of fell flat for me. The ending was very confusing.
You can't end a book like that.
It wasn't even really like an ending. There was no closure, was really the thing.
Well, I think that was the point, is it was to open up the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's about this girl who can't go outside because she's allergic to nearly everything, and she could die if she goes outside of her house, so she just stays inside all the time. If I remember correctly, then there's a boy who comes in and sees her, and they fall in love, and then everything just falls down. It fell flat for me, which is disappointing because I have some friends that really enjoyed it. I think. I feel like I saw a lot of 5-star reviews, but
I don't remember.
Yeah, it just didn't work for me.
So, the book that I picked for this question was Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco. I was disappointed by this book. I was so excited. The other 3 were pretty good,
I will admit I accidentally spoiled the third book for myself, but like they were fairly
It's
good.
okay.
And then this one was just bleh. Like it was not a good ending. It was not, and like even I could see the ending coming. Like I figured it out, and I was like,
She never does that.
Right, right, that happens. Like that's why I liked these books, is because the romance was like a facet of the story, but it wasn't the story. And then also that I didn't figure it out. Like I read the ending of the first book and I was just like mind blown, right? What in the world? They're always so good, and you can't, like, you just right? You just want to stay up till 2 a.m. reading. And this one was just like,
Is it over?
yeah. Maybe it's because I knew about H.H. Holmes, which is the murder this is based off. Maybe it's because I knew more about H.H. Holmes than I did about the other stories. But it was just like, dude, I figured it out. And that's not a good sign.
What were your most engrossing books of the year?
I had a couple, but I'm just going to say Legendborn and One of Us is Lying. I judge my favorite or my best books of the year off of how engrossing they were, how often
Yeah,
I want to read it.
that's
And so
definitely-
I pretty much said them all already.
Same for me. I just wrote down the same answers that I said for what were your top 3 favorite books. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, Legendborn, and I Wish You All the Best.
In no particular order.
Yeah, I couldn't put them down. It was kind of funny because they go in such different directions. They're such different books, but I still loved them all very much. What was the hardest books for you to get through?
I didn't really have one. Like, I had books I didn't like, and I had books that I marked DNF because I was just like, I don't want to read this anymore. This is too hard, right?
Mhm.
Or I want to read other things. So, which is something that I said in the beginning of the video I want
Yeah.
to work on. I have a rule that I'm trying out. I don't know where I heard this, but read until page 150.
Oh, that was Mom.
Oh, was it? Okay, somebody.
famous.
I heard it from somebody. And if you're still not into it, don't read it anymore. You should not make yourself read a book you don't want to. I've done that. It's not fun. Just move on.
Give it a chance,
Right.
is basically the point.
But-
I put A Beautiful Mind. It's an autobiography, I think, of John Nash. I like the story. He's an interesting person, and I like learning about him and how he thinks. But this book is just so long, and
You're
the
still not
writer.
done with it.
No, I'm still not done with it. I mean, I'm like halfway ish, and I've been reading it for 6-8 months now. I'm never gonna finish this, I don't think. Someday in the far future. I like the topic, but the writer is a very good writer. But it's just so long-winded. Like, the sentences are very, very long, using words that I don't really know what they mean. So it's difficult for me to read it. Also, it's difficult for me to connect the dots. So, like, sometimes they'll skip ahead and then go back, and
It's hard to follow.
it's hard to follow. Exactly. I'm still gonna finish it. As Mom said, it's worth finishing it since it's a topic I'm interested in. But
You might not be interested in it when you finish.
yeah, I'm gonna finish it. Can't tell you when, but I will.
Okay, any new releases for 2022 that you are looking forward to?
The only one I could think of was Bloodmarked, which is the second Legendborn series.
I'm so excited.
It's
I hope it lives up to the first one, because I would stink if it
I
didn't.
know. Goodreads says July 2022 is when it's supposed to come out. Don't quote me on that. I'm excited.
For me, I said Bloodmarked also, and then also Chain of Thorns, which is a Cassandra Clare book. It's the 3rd book in the Last Hours series. Goodreads says November 1st, 2022.
What are 3 books you're looking forward to reading in 2022?
Okay, so I said The Inheritance Games by Jennifer
Exactly.
Lynn Barnes. This book I've heard a lot about. Well, not really, but I keep seeing it. People like, oh, I loved it, or I want to read it, so I want to read it. So basically, she gets left a ton of money, but she has to move into his mansion when he dies. This guy dies. And his family's like, dude, why didn't we get your money? Like, what's up with that? So I think it's, and I'm sure there's games involved because it's called The Inheritance Games. So I haven't read the description in a while. I apologize if that's incorrect, but that's the vibe I get from it.
It's pretty.
And then I also want to read As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, which is the 3rd book in that Good Girl's Guide to Murder books. And then The Plot by Dun Dun Dun. Gene Hamp Correlates. Apologies. If I understand correctly, this book is about an English teacher who used to be a writer, or a teacher, I should say, who used to be a writer but is struggling to make money. And he has a student who, you know, stands up and is like, I have a best-selling plot. And the teacher's like, okay, yeah, fine, you know, move on. But then he hears the plot and he's like, whoa, that's gonna make a lot of money.
That's legit.
But this student mysteriously dies. The teacher's like, I'll just snatch that up, thank you. And he sells his book and he's like, it's mine, I made all this money. And he thinks he's gotten away with it. And then he gets this note that's like, I know what you did. So that should be interesting because that first part alone is a whole book, right? But then you have, and then somebody figured it out.
And it's not a very big book either.
No, and I don't know if it's a standalone or if it has a sequel or not. So,
All right, I picked. Well, I had a difficult time picking. So recently, our mom let us pick some books off of Amazon. So I just chose those. So the first one I'm going to mention is Eleanor and Park by Rambo Rowell. It's supposed to be interesting. It's got a lot of good reviews. It's about these two teenagers who fall in love. I believe it's in the 80s. That's pretty much all I know about it. I tried reading more Rambo Rowell books. I tried to read...
it's like Carry On or something.
Yes, I think it was called Carry On. I didn't like it. So I'm a little nervous about that. But as far as I know, it should be good. The next one, which is the one I'm most excited for, is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue.
I actually want to read that one too. It looks cool.
Mackenzie Lee. I was reading the description and I basically got LGBTQ plus romance in, was it the 1800s on a boat.
And then somebody dies.
And they're rich.
No. The only thing that would make that better is if somebody died.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't own a book like that. Why not?
Why not?
I've also seen a lot of people read and love this book, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. It's the first of a series, so hopefully this is good. The last one is The House of Gucci by Sarah Gay Forden. It's a big book.
Yeah, she thought it was going to be tiny.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a book that you could fit in your palm. It's not. It's like the size of my head. Bigger than my head. Wow. I mostly bought this because I want to watch the movie.
Lady Gaga.
Yeah. And I didn't know anything about the movie, and this popped up on Amazon, so I read the description, and it sounds amazing. Super interesting. It's another murder mystery, and they're all rich. That's pretty much all I know about it.
Okay, final question. Top book recommendation from 2021. Like, if you could pick one book and be like, read it, what would that be?
I cheated. I'm gonna recommend the entire Raven Cycle series.
You did that last year. You recommended the Raven Boys.
I'm going to recommend the entire Raven Cycle series. Just know at this point in time I haven't read the last one, so if it sucks, I'm sorry. The reasons I wrote down for why I want to recommend this series is mostly the characters and how much they grow. This occurred to me while we were setting up for the video. It really shows that just because you're in a certain position right now, you're going through something right now, doesn't mean that's how you're gonna feel forever. You can change, you can move on. Things happen. You just gotta go with the flow.
Life happens.
Yes, and try to just do your best. It's fantasy. It's kind of got a paranormal edge to it, which is interesting. I also really love this author's writing. It's sophisticated without being difficult. You know, they use a lot of expressions that I've never heard before, but once I read them, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. So really just all in all, a great series, and I mean, they're not very big books, so you can go through them fairly quickly. Just great.
The one that I picked is One of Us is Lying. I wasn't really sure which one to pick. I read a lot of good books this year. I picked this one, to pick one because I needed to pick one, but also because it has a fresh take on murder mystery. I think the ending is, I mean, basically everything I saw.
Oh, God!
Basically everything I said.
Okay, hang on. Sit. Okay, let's wrap this up.
This is the book I pick. It's a fresh take on a murder mystery. It has a ton of intertwining stories, and the release of information is pretty good, so recommend it. It does touch on a lot of specific issues like LGBTQ plus rights and privacy rights and law and things like that. This is what I recommend. Thank you so much for watching our
That's
video.
it. Harley crashed the party.
We hope that you liked it. If you want to see more of our faces, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, like, and share with your friends. We'll see you tomorrow for day 4 of Vlogmas. Bye.
Bye. Hang
Watching
on.
old videos.
What was that?
If I start talking over Emma, she has full permission to smack me.
You heard it. Heard it here first. I know what you did last summer.
We have more sophisticated tastes.
No, that's not it.
Inheritance.
Yep.
Inheritance, which is a croissant.
What's up?